The original Top Gun is such an 80s joyride that I completely adore, but man, may I say that Top Gun Maverick is even better than the original, and today I'm going to give you 10 reasons why. If you do enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button because I love talking about movies over here on a daily basis, and I think if you're here, you probably love doing the same. Starting out with the most basic one on my 10th reason of why this film is better, and that really much just comes to it will hold up better than the original. When I went back to revisit the original Top Gun, I found myself having quite a few issues with some of the montage-y elements and very much how it feels like a product of the 80s, which at the time is fun, and it's an 80s fueled joyride, which is a blast. And I understand that a lot of the things that what this film does builds off that original, and without the original, maybe it wouldn't have been as strong in the sequel. But for me, I don't really think those elements really much matter here per se. I actually think this movie stands on its own in a very great way. And if you know the original, good. If you don't, then you're still going to be able to get emotionally invested. Besides maybe one or two things here with Val Kilmer and, of course, even Goose's son. But still enough, let's just go a little bit more further and discuss why I think this will, last longer. It'll stand the test of time because Maverick, for me, is first off very modernized, discussing certain things happening on our day and age right now. But as well as the way that the story is built up, it doesn't just have 80s references and montage-y type stuff in it to move forward with the story. All of the visual effects, all of the practical effects, they all feel so real and realized. And for me, 30 years down the line, when we're looking at Top Gun being 60 years old, compared to this movie being 30 years old, this is going to be the one that stands the test of time. Especially even if you were to compare it like 30 years of just Top Gun and 30 years of Top Gun Maverick, I easily see this one doing that. And again, this one's a little bit more up for debate, but I just don't see this one not faltering back. It's kind of like Avatar, where like Avatar was done with such extreme measures with its visual effects at the time. For me, Maverick has that element, but since so much of it was practical, you can really tell. Coming up at my number 9 reason of why Maverick is better than Top Gun, it's due to the directing. Now, nothing against Tony Scott, who did a phenomenal job with the original movie, but seriously enough, when you compare the directing from the first movie to the second film with Joseph Kosinski, there's just something special there with the flair, the way that he gets every single action set piece, edits it together, and brings together such a tightly knitted, action exhilarating thrill ride that really much brings you to the edge of your seat. Even during some of the training montages in here, I very much feel that they are so much more invested than before, and also the way that he mixes in the emotion in here, I felt stronger than ever. And I say this as someone who, when Goose died in the original movie, I never truly got too emotional with it. In this film, I felt more emotional to, of course, Goose and some of the other characters within inside of here, and it really comes down to the point where you do care about this entire team of Top Gun lieutenants and everyone that you really much are following throughout this story. Which also comes up to the next thing, which is the better cinematography. Now, understanding, yes, we do have better technology when it comes down to Top Gun Maverick. There's no doubt about that. The technology 30 years ago are completely different than the technology that we have today, but the cinematography can still look quite insane, and for me, while certain things are beat for beat, shot for shot, sort of like representation from that first film, there are shots in here that are unbelievably beautiful compared to the original Top Gun, which really much had this filtered yellow pissy color to it that I didn't totally love, and this film definitely has some tones to that, but I just felt like this one was a little bit more clear and more defined, and just something that really much more stuck out to me than the original Top Gun film had. Now we jump into my next category, which is better story / better love interest. And I leave this here is in particular, I want to reference this because for me, the original love interest I felt was way too cheesy. I never believed in it. There's some fun antiques in there, but I never really came to love it. And I think the decision to actually move Maverick along in his life, not leave it to the past, but actually give us someone else who again is from his past that we've never met, Jennifer Connelly's character. And I thought Connelly was great in here. And again, nothing towards the original love interest, but for me, there was something there that was just very relatable and nothing that was immature. It felt mature in its instances and the way that it was built up and just felt perfect for those two characters. Especially not getting into spoilers, but towards the end of the film, the way that you really care about this and the way that they spend time developing this relationship just bit by bit, where it's just one of those relationships where you come back to know and love someone that you maybe need to rekindle that fire with. And I really appreciate what they were able to do with Conley's character in here. And of course, with the story here, there is that added background context of what happened in the original Top Gun. Now, I very much in the state of mind that if you never saw the original Top Gun, I don't really think you need to. Yes, it helps for certain instances, but like I mentioned, Goose's death never really affected me in that first movie. The only thing that honestly I think is the biggest dynamic coming from that film is, well, yes, knowing the friendship there, but also the friendship between Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise in that film and where it had started at, and to how now it parallels into this film. But even adding there, this film builds on that original, taking it from just being this fun joyride to being an emotional, exhilarating joyride, and one that you feel when you meet Goose's son, Rooster, and the dynamic between him and Cruise and what is going on there, as well as Glenn Powell's character and everyone else in the team. You come to care, as well as the mission here feels way more at stake and way more heavy, and especially it feels like this is pretty much a suicide mission, and it is insane. And when they go on that mission, you feel every ounce of it, and I love the build up from every other scene, especially comparing how these fighter pilots are very much the last of their kind. Everyone's going to drone warfare. So how does this change up the game? And I love that. Now we move into our next category, which is better side characters. Now for me, again, Maverick. Why does it win? It wins due to the fact that you actually come to care about every single other person, even the more minute characters like Bob. And for me, it was just the subtle details that they added to every single moment of tension, and as well as family building and bond. And I really much appreciated how they were able to do that inside this film. And I always felt like, again, when I look back at the original Top Gun, I remember Maverick, I remember Goose, and I remember Iceman, and that's it. But now when I look at Maverick itself, Booster, you have Cyclone, you have, of course, Maverick, you have Jennifer Connelly's character, you have so many different characters that you can go into and on board with. And for me, I just feel more attached to this team than I ever did the original. Before we get to my top 4 reasons why Maverick is better than the original Top Gun, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below. Do you disagree with me? Do you think the original Top Gun is better than this one? Well, let me know down below if you did get the chance to see it early. If not, if you are checking out this weekend, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. I do have a full review up above in the card below, and you can check it out there. Of course, guys, thank you so much again for watching. Let's get back to the video. Moving into the next reason on why this movie is better than the original, it goes down to Tom Cruise's character Maverick, who again is in a very much different part of his life. And this is the one part that I will actually give the original Top Gun did help build this up, because in the original film, I feel like the original film, I will give it this much. You know, Tom Cruise as Maverick in there is kind of a cocky asshole, but he knows how good he is, but he's immature at times, and I feel like Goose's death really much shot him up to be a little bit more mature, and in this film you see that more mature side of him. And I love that, because it really much is a bigger character development, which also expands on a more mature tone for the entirety of the film. And this main character that we are following along, it's like, again, if you've never seen the original Top Gun, you still instantly going to grab onto him and follow along in his story because of what his goal is. And his goal is not to just train these fighter pilots on how and what to do. He's training them on how to survive. And that entire concept and the weight of the world being on his shoulders, I love. Coming down to better score and soundtrack. Now, this is where we're definitely going to argue in the comment section, I already know, but danger zones in both films, so those cross each other out. The use of them are literally the same. I'm going to give it to Maverick once again. Like I mentioned, 10 reasons why. Lauren Balfe's direction within the score in here is just phenomenal. As a composer, he's been really underrated the last few years. Not even shook that he was brought on to do this, since he did do the last Mission Impossible, and that film's score was fantastic. There is something special about this score that builds off the original in many different ways and elevates it, but also creating its new nuances that needs it to be. As well as talking about the soundtrack, I loved some of the musical cues that they put into here, where in the original one, I can only really remember Danger Zone. In this one in particular, it's Danger Zone. It's a lot more other ones that I don't want to get into spoilers on, but I was just really invested. And there's one sequence and one music cue that they play when they're doing one of the first training montages and training exercises, and I loved it, and I love that band, and I was really happy to see that they were able to do that. Which means my next thing, better editing. I always feel like editing is one of the biggest core parts to an action sequence, and in here, whether it is the action sequences or just many of the other sequences, the editing is very tightly knitted to the point where the film is 2 hours and like 10 minutes, and it does not feel like 2 hours and 10 minutes at all. You feel on the edge, and by the time you even look at the clock, you're like, oh my god, the film is almost over, and it's still hurtling towards that finale, and I loved it. And again, a lot of that goes down to the editing and getting that pacing right. Of course, we have better action scene. Now, here's my thing with this. This one is going to be tough because most of the time when you compare both films, they do have pretty much the same action sequences in the way that they kind of show and move the planes and stuff. But again, Maverick does this better with the better technology that they now have to showcase this and actually putting them in jets and really much flying them around in straightforward zero-G. Like the way that you see their faces move, the way that they twist and turn the jets, it is insane, and you feel like you are there, especially if you see this in Dolby or IMAX. You are going to be gripping your seat like you are actually in that plane, and I loved it. Every rocket being shot at them, the way that it twists and turns them to maneuver and get around when they're trying to fight other people in the sky, it is awesome. And it's exhilarating, and again, adding to this, what makes it an action scene even more important is the emotion, because in this sequence, you have no idea who could die or live. Where in the original Top Gun film, I assumed everyone was going to live since Goose had just died. And I love that they built that up and gave me that feeling throughout these entire feelings where I felt like my heart was jumping out of my chest. It comes down to my number one reason of why this is a better finale. And that better finale reason is due to, of course, the emotion, the action sequences, and everything that the film built up to this point in time. It builds up to such an exhilarating emotional climax that you are just sitting there on edge, not knowing what's going to be happening next, not knowing who could die next, not knowing what could possibly go next, and just wanting that happy ending for all the characters that you just came to love over the last hour and 45 minutes before this finale kicks in. I truly go as far to say I think this last 30 minutes is some of the best 30 minutes we have ever seen in an action film yet. And again, the performance is going top notch with Tom Cruise and Miles Teller, and especially some of the dynamics between them. Jennifer Connelly's great, Glenn Powell, even John Hamm. There's so much emotion all put throughout there. And again, everyone must be a round of applause for this. I loved Top Gun Maverick. It is hands down one of the best sequels ever created. And if you didn't think so, I will be absolutely shocked. So with all that said, guys, thank you so much again for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My top 10 reasons of why Maverick is better than the original Top Gun. I can't wait to get your guys' thoughts on this film. If you guys liked it, if you enjoyed it, if you disagree with me, there will be tons of other videos popping up all around me. Look forward to more movie content soon. And of course, until next time, stay classy.